This is Bone Chillers to disturb your dreams. Dare to join us? Click subscribe, ring the bell. But remember, we cannot guarantee your safety from the nightmares that await. Prepare to be thrilled, chilled, and filled with a sense of dread you'll find nowhere else. Welcome to the darkness. We've been waiting.
The Devil's Dance. New Orleans was a city known for its successes, but during Mardi Gras, it took hedonism to a whole new level. In the heart of the French Quarter, the streets pulsed with the energy of 1,000 revelers, their laughter and drunken shouts filling the night air. Neon masks and glittering costumes adorned every passerby, while the smell of Cajun cuisine wafted through the alleys. But this year, something extraordinary was about to happen. As the clock struck midnight on Fat Tuesday, a thick fog rolled in from the Mississippi River, obscuring the moon and casting an eerie pallor over the revelry. And in the midst of this supernatural mist, a sprawling carnival materialized seemingly out of thin air. The sight was both breathtaking and terrifying. The carnival, named the Devil's Dance, was a twisted menagerie of macabre attractions, from the freakish and bizarre to the darkly enchanting. Its entrance was marked by a massive, sinister-looking Ferris wheel that loomed over the crowd, its rusty cogs groaning as it turned. A sign at the entrance proclaimed, "Embrace the darkness. Experience the unthinkable." Curiosity, as always, got the better of many Mardi Gras goers. Some whispered that it was an illusion, while others believed it was a one-night-only spectacle created by the most talented artists in the world. They couldn't have been more wrong. The entrance to the Devil's Dance was manned by a tall, gaunt figure dressed in a tattered top hat and a crimson velvet tailcoat. His pale face was stretched into a sinister grin, revealing sharp teeth that glistened like polished obsidian. With a flourish, he extended a skeletal hand toward the crowd, beckoning them to enter. Few could resist the allure of the enigmatic carnival, and they flowed in like a river of lost souls, drawn toward the promise of the unknown. As they passed through the entrance, they were each handed a black mask adorned with ornate silver filigree. These masks, they would soon discover, held a sinister power. Inside, the carnival was a surreal dreamscape of flickering candlelight, twisted carnival games, and performers who seemed to have stepped straight out of a nightmare. Fire breathers contorted their bodies in unnatural ways, while contortionists twisted into grotesque shapes. Acrobats soared through the air with the grace of demons, and musicians played eerie melodies that sent shivers down the spines of those who listened. At the center of it all was a massive dance floor, where revelers moved in a hypnotic trance to music that seemed to emanate from the very depths of hell itself. The carnival goers, now masked and caught in the thrall of the spectacle, moved with a frenetic energy, their inhibitions melting away. But as the night wore on, the carnival took a darker turn. In the shadowy corners of the tent, groups of masked partygoers gathered around ominous altars. They began to perform rituals, their chants and incantations growing louder and more unholy with each passing moment. Unbeknownst to them, these rituals were unlocking ancient seals, releasing malevolent forces that had been imprisoned for centuries. Outside, the fog thickened, enveloping the entire city in a shroud of darkness. The revelers who had not entered the Devil's Dance found themselves trapped in a twisted carnival of their own. The streets ran red with blood as violence and chaos erupted. The city was descending into madness, and there was no escape. A small group of survivors, who had somehow resisted the allure of the Devil's Dance, gathered in a dimly lit alley. They realized that they were the only hope for breaking the curse that had befallen New Orleans. Among them was Sarah, a local historian with a knowledge of occult lore, and Jack, a street-smart bartender who knew the city's hidden secrets. With masks in hand, they ventured into the carnival, determined to put an end to the dark rituals that had plunged their city into chaos. The carnival's twisted attractions now seemed even more sinister, and the revelers moved with a maniacal fervor. As Sarah and Jack approached the Ferris wheel, they saw the gaunt figure who had greeted the carnival goers earlier. He grinned at them, revealing those sharp teeth. "Welcome to the Devil's Dance," he hissed. Sarah held up her mask and spoke a binding incantation she had learned from her research. The mask pulsed with dark energy, and the figure recoiled, his form flickering like a dying candle. He let out a scream that was swallowed by the cacophony of the carnival. With the mask's power, they disrupted the rituals and released the trapped souls of the revelers, who now had no memory of the horrors they had witnessed. As dawn broke, the fog lifted, and the city slowly returned to normal. The carnival, along with its malevolent forces, vanished without a trace. New Orleans, though scarred by the night's events, began the long process of healing. The survivors, their masks now imbued with the carnival's dark power, vowed to protect their city from any supernatural threat that might arise in the future. But as they looked out at the sunrise over the Mississippi River, they couldn't shake the feeling that the devil's dance might return one day, ready to ensnare the city in its malevolent embrace once more. And so, they remained vigilant, knowing that the darkness always lingered just beneath the surface, waiting for the next Mardi Gras to dance again. The Haunting of Blackwood Manor. New Orleans, Louisiana, is a city known for its rich history, vibrant culture, and eerie mystique. In the heart of the French Quarter, amidst the cobblestone streets and gaslit lanterns, stood Blackwood Manor, a historic mansion that had been transformed into a charming bed and breakfast. It was a place where tourists seeking a taste of the city's haunted past could rest their heads, unaware of the ancient curse that lurked within its walls. The story of Blackwood Manor dated back to the early 19th century, when a powerful voodoo priestess named Marie Laveau lived in the heart of New Orleans. She was rumored to possess unimaginable powers, capable of bending reality to her will. It was said that she cursed the land on which the mansion now stood, a curse that would sleep for generations, only to awaken when the right conditions were met. The first inkling of trouble came to the attention of Eloise Dupont, the current owner of Blackwood Manor, when she began to hear whispers in the walls. Soft, disembodied voices echoed through the narrow hallways, speaking in a language she couldn't understand. Eloise dismissed it as her imagination playing tricks on her, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent. One fateful night, as a torrential downpour battered the city, Eloise was alone in her bedroom. The storm outside raged on, and the wind howled through the ancient oaks in the garden. Lightning illuminated her room, casting eerie shadows on the walls. And that's when she saw it, a ghostly figure, shrouded in mist, standing at the foot of her bed. Eloise couldn't move, paralyzed with fear as the spectre slowly approached. Its eyes were empty sockets, and it stretched out a withered hand, pointing at her. The whispering voices in the walls grew louder, forming an otherworldly chant. Eloise managed to scream, and the apparition dissipated as if it had never been there. Terrified, Eloise reached out to paranormal investigators, knowing that something malevolent had taken residence in her once charming home. A team of seasoned investigators, led by Dr. Jonathan Miller, arrived at Blackwood Manor the following evening. Armed with an array of ghost hunting equipment and their own courage, they began their investigation. The investigators spent nights in the mansion, recording unexplainable phenomena. Objects moved on their own, cold spots materialized in various rooms, and the whispers in the walls continued. But perhaps the most disturbing occurrences were the apparitions, ghostly figures that appeared and disappeared, each one more terrifying than the last. Dr. Miller delved into the history of Blackwood Manor and discovered the legend of Marie Laveau's curse. It was said that the curse could only be broken if the blood of the cursed land was spilled. Dr. Miller was reluctant to believe in such superstition, but as the evidence mounted, he couldn't deny that something otherworldly was at play. One night, as the investigators gathered in the grand parlor to discuss their findings, the room grew icy cold. A spectral figure materialized before them, a woman in tattered clothing with hollow eyes. She spoke in a mournful tone, "The curse must be broken, or we shall remain trapped here for all eternity." The investigators realized that the restless spirits within Blackwood Manor were prisoners of Marie Laveau's curse, and they were desperate for release. Dr. Miller, driven by a newfound sense of duty, decided to dig deeper into the curse's origins. He consulted with local voodoo practitioners and unearthed a chilling ritual that could potentially break the curse. With Eloise's reluctant approval, the investigators embarked on the perilous journey to break the curse. The ritual required them to venture into the heart of the city's swamps, seeking a rare flower known as the voodoo lily, said to hold the power to counteract curses. Armed with candles, incantations, and their unwavering resolve, the team set out on a moonless night. Navigating the murky waters and eerie silence of the swamps, they eventually found the elusive voodoo lily. But as they attempted to pluck it, the swamp came alive with sinister whispers, and the water beneath them churned violently. The spirits of the cursed land were determined to protect their secret. Desperation fueled the investigators, and they managed to obtain the flower. Returning to Blackwood Manor, they conducted the ritual with Eloise as their anchor. The ancient incantations reverberated through the mansion, causing the walls to tremble and the apparitions to wail in agony. As the ritual reached its climax, a blinding light enveloped the room, and the spirits of Blackwood Manor let out one final, mournful cry. The curse had been broken. The mansion, once a haven of torment, was now silent and still. With the curse lifted, the investigators watched as the restless spirits found their peace and ascended to the afterlife. The mansion, no longer haunted, felt like a different place altogether. Eloise decided to continue running Blackwood Manor as a bed and breakfast, but the memories of those harrowing nights would forever haunt her. The legend of Marie Laveau's curse would live on in New Orleans, a cautionary tale of the power of voodoo and the enduring grip of the supernatural. And Blackwood Manor, once a place of nightmares, became a symbol of resilience, where the living and the dead had found their redemption. But in the quiet moments of the night, when the wind whispered through the oaks and the moonlight bathed the mansion in an eerie glow, one couldn't help but wonder if the curse truly lay dormant, waiting for the right conditions to awaken once more. The Stones of Roswell. Roswell, New Mexico had always been a town overshadowed by its past, notorious for the UFO incident that had occurred there decades ago. Yet, for a group of archaeologists, the desert held no terrors beyond the harsh sun and relentless sandstorms. They had come to excavate a remote site rumored to hold ancient secrets buried beneath its arid surface. Dr. Sarah Thornton, a renowned archaeologist, led the expedition. Her team consisted of eager young researchers and seasoned professionals, all drawn by the promise of uncovering hidden history. The site lay far from the prying eyes of tourists and conspiracy theorists, a place where only the whispering wind bore witness to their work. As the first shovelful of dirt was displaced, they unearthed what appeared to be ordinary stones, weathered by centuries of exposure. But as they examined them more closely, they realized these were no ordinary rocks. Intricate symbols were etched onto their surfaces, symbols unlike any they had ever encountered. These symbols don't correspond to any known civilization, Sarah said, her brow furrowing in confusion. It's as if they're from another world. Intrigued and eager to unravel the mystery, they began deciphering the inscriptions. Late into the night, they toiled under the harsh glow of floodlights, the symbols slowly revealing their secrets. The more they uncovered, the more unsettling the story became. The stones spoke of a civilization long gone, one that had made contact with extraterrestrial beings. These beings, described as tall and gaunt, with elongated heads and eyes like stars, had shared knowledge and power with the ancient people of Roswell. In return, the civilization had erected a series of monuments and stones, inscribed with their alien language. The team's excitement gave way to unease as they read further. The stones warned that if the symbols were ever deciphered, the beings would return, seeking retribution for a betrayal that had transpired centuries ago. Sarah was skeptical but felt a chill run down her spine as she read the ominous warnings aloud. That night, as the archaeologists camped by the dig site, a strange occurrence befell them. Whispers, like distant echoes from the cosmos, filled the air. They were soft, almost inaudible, yet carried an otherworldly weight. Did anyone else hear that? Sarah asked, her voice quivering with uncertainty. The team exchanged nervous glances, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. It's just the wind, one of them replied, trying to dismiss the eerie sound. But Sarah knew better. She couldn't shake the feeling that something ancient and powerful had been awakened, something that now watched them from the stars. Over the next few days, the whispers continued, growing more insistent with each passing night. The archaeologists' dreams were filled with visions of the tall, gaunt beings with starry eyes. They appeared in fragments of half-remembered nightmares, always just out of reach, always watching. Tensions among the team began to mount, fueled by sleepless nights and growing paranoia. Sarah, ever the rational scientist, tried to keep everyone focused on their work, but her own doubts gnawed at her. She couldn't shake the feeling that they had unleashed something beyond their understanding. Then, one evening, as they huddled around the stones, deciphering more of the cryptic symbols, a sudden gust of wind swept through the camp, extinguishing their lanterns. In the darkness, they heard the whispers again, louder this time, like a choir of spectral voices. "Leave this place," the voices intoned. "You have awakened the guardians of the stars. They will return to claim what was taken from them." Panic set in, and the team scrambled to their feet, leaving behind their tools and equipment. They fled the site, their footsteps echoing in the empty desert, but the whispers followed them, growing louder and more malevolent. Sarah's research notes had been left behind, and she feared that the stone's secrets might now be beyond their reach. As they made their way back to Roswell, they couldn't escape the feeling that they were being pursued by something not of this world. Back in town, they tried to warn the authorities, but their story was met with skepticism and ridicule. The legend of Roswell had made the town a magnet for conspiracy theories, and the archaeologists' tale of alien retribution was dismissed as another hoax. As days turned into weeks, the whispers continued to haunt their dreams. The archaeologists' lives unraveled, their once promising careers reduced to shadows of their former selves. Some vanished without a trace, while others were committed to psychiatric institutions, driven mad by the relentless voices in their heads. Sarah, determined to find a way to stop the torment, returned to the dig site alone. She approached the stones, their symbols now glowing with an otherworldly light. With trembling hands, she began to decipher the final inscriptions, hoping to find a way to appease the vengeful beings. But as she neared the end, the whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar. The ground beneath her feet trembled, and the night sky above her exploded in a dazzling display of lights. The tall, gaunt figures with starry eyes materialized before her, their forms shimmering and insubstantial. "You have awoken us," one of them said, its voice echoing through the cosmos. "We have come to reclaim what was taken from us." Sarah tried to speak, to explain that they had not intended to offend or betray, but the beings were beyond reason. They reached out with spectral hands, and Sarah felt herself being lifted off the ground, her body bathed in an ethereal light. As the archaeologists had feared, the ancient stones of Roswell held a power they could not comprehend. The beings had returned, and the town would never be the same. The once quiet desert town now echoed with the whispers of the cosmos, a haunting reminder of the price paid for unlocking the secrets of the past. And so, in the heart of Roswell, the archaeologists' excavation had unleashed a terror from beyond the stars, a terror that would haunt the town for generations to come, a terror that would forever be known as the Whispering Stones of Roswell. Whispers from Salem. The quaint town of Salem, Massachusetts, was known for its rich history of witchcraft, and it was the perfect backdrop for a weekend getaway for a group of friends. Ethan, Sarah, Alex, and Emma had always been drawn to the supernatural, and they couldn't resist the allure of Salem's eerie charm. Their adventure began when they stumbled upon an antique bookstore tucked away in a cobblestone alley. Inside, shelves were stacked high with dusty tomes, each one whispering secrets of a bygone era. The friends' eyes were immediately drawn to an old leather-bound book, its pages yellowed with age. The cover bore a strange insignia, a blend of pentagrams and crescent moons. Ethan, the most daring of the group, grabbed the book and examined it with fascination. "Look at this, guys. It's a spellbook. A real, ancient spellbook." Sarah peered over his shoulder, her curiosity piqued. "Do you think it's real? Like, actual witchcraft stuff?" Alex chuckled nervously. "Come on, Ethan, you can't be serious. It's probably just some touristy junk." But Emma, with a gleam in her eye, disagreed. "You never know, Alex. Salem has a history of witch trials and witchcraft. This book could be authentic." With that, Ethan decided to purchase the book, and the group returned to their rented cottage on the outskirts of town. That night, they gathered around a flickering candle, the ancient spellbook open before them. Ethan began to read aloud from its pages, the incantations strange and otherworldly. As he chanted, a chill settled over the room, and the candle's flame flickered wildly. Suddenly, the book burst into flames, the fire an eerie green that cast eerie shadows on their faces. Panicked, they tried to douse the flames, but the fire seemed impervious to water. In desperation, Sarah snatched the book and threw it out the window. The fireball disappeared as soon as the book left the cottage, and an eerie silence filled the room. The friends exchanged nervous glances, their excitement now replaced with fear. "What did we just do?" Emma whispered. The next morning, they returned to the spot where the book had landed. To their shock, the book lay there untouched, its pages unscathed by the fire that had consumed it moments before. As they cautiously picked it up, a voice echoed through their minds, a whisper that seemed to come from all around them. "You have released us." The four friends staggered back, their hearts pounding. The whispers grew louder, filling their heads with cryptic messages and ancient curses. They were not alone. The spirits of the witches who had been wronged in Salem's dark past were now awakened. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen. Objects moved on their own, shadows danced in the corners of their vision, and they could hear faint voices whispering in the night. The spirits of the wronged witches were seeking vengeance, and the group realized they had to find a way to stop them. Desperate for answers, they returned to Salem's archives, searching for any information on how to undo the spells from the ancient book. They discovered a diary from a witness of the witch trials, recounting the dark rituals performed by the witches of Salem. According to the diary, the witches' power was intertwined with that of the vampires who had secretly lived among the townsfolk. The vampires had struck a sinister deal with the witches, granting them immortality in exchange for their dark magic. With this newfound knowledge, the friends realized that they needed to confront the vampires to break the witches' curse. But finding vampires in Salem was no easy task. As they delved deeper into the town's secrets, they uncovered an underground network of vampires who had lived in Salem for centuries. The vampires were none too pleased about the meddling of these intruders and sent their minions to deal with the group. Ethan, Sarah, Alex, and Emma found themselves in a relentless battle against the vampires and their cursed witches. The streets of Salem became a battleground of supernatural forces, with spells, fangs, and dark incantations clashing in the night. With determination and the knowledge they had gained, the friends managed to locate the head vampire, a centuries-old creature with a thirst for power. In a final confrontation, they used the secrets from the diary to weaken the vampire, rendering him vulnerable. As the vampire crumbled to dust, the curse that bound the witches was broken. The spirits of the wronged witches began to fade away, their vengeful whispers growing fainter until they were no more. The friends returned the ancient spellbook to the same antique bookstore, where it would remain hidden from those who sought to misuse its dark powers. Salem's supernatural secrets were once again sealed away, but the memories of their terrifying ordeal would forever haunt Ethan, Sarah, Alex, and Emma. As they left Salem behind, they couldn't help but glance over their shoulders, wondering if the shadows held the whispers of those who had been wronged, waiting for another unwitting soul to set them free. The Ghost Ship of Lake Superior. Lake Superior, Michigan, was known for its unpredictable weather, treacherous waters, and an eerie history that seemed to permeate its very depths. It was a place where legends were born, and cautionary tales were whispered around campfires. But for a group of thrill-seekers who had heard the rumors of the ghost ship of Lake Superior, the allure of the unknown was too strong to resist. Nina, a fearless adventurer with a penchant for the paranormal, had gathered a crew of like-minded individuals. There was Jake, a seasoned sailor who knew the waters of Lake Superior like the back of his hand, and Sarah, a historian with a fascination for the macabre. Rounding out the group was Ben, a technology guru armed with an arsenal of cameras and recording equipment. Together, they set out on a fateful expedition. The mist hung heavy over the lake as their sailboat, the Eclipse, cut through the water. The day was calm, the sky overcast, and the wind barely a whisper. They had heard stories of the ghost ship, tales passed down through generations of sailors who had glimpsed its spectral form on foggy nights. Some said it was a cursed vessel, others claimed it was a pirate ship lost to time, but no one had ever ventured too close. As the day turned to evening, the mist thickened around them, and the crew began to feel the weight of the lake's history. Sarah, the historian, shared eerie tales of shipwrecks and lost souls. The atmosphere on board the Eclipse became palpably tense, a mixture of excitement and unease. Suddenly, Ben's radar system began to flicker and beep erratically. "Something's out there," he said, his voice trembling. "Something big." Nina and Jake exchanged worried glances. They slowed the boat, trying to make sense of the blips on the radar screen. And then, emerging from the mist, they saw it, a massive, ghostly silhouette, like an old sailing ship from another era. "It's the ghost ship!" Sarah exclaimed, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. The Eclipse drifted closer to the spectral vessel, the crew unable to tear their eyes away. The ghost ship's sails hung slack, tattered and grey. Its wood was weathered and rotted, as if it had been adrift for centuries. No signs of life were visible on board. Nina made the decision to board the eerie vessel, and with trepidation, they dropped anchor and launched a small dinghy. They approached the ghost ship cautiously, as if they feared it might vanish into the mist at any moment. As they stepped onto the deck of the abandoned ship, a chilling wind swept through them. The air was heavy with the scent of salt and decay. The Eclipse crew moved cautiously, exploring the ship's eerie, empty corridors. The ship was a haunting labyrinth of dark, creaking passageways. Flickering lanterns cast eerie shadows on the decaying walls. It was as if time had stopped, leaving the vessel frozen in a perpetual state of decay. They stumbled upon the ship's logbook, its pages brittle and yellowed with age. Sarah began to read aloud, her voice quivering. The log told a tragic tale of a crew lost to disease, starvation, and madness. The captain's final entry spoke of an otherworldly encounter, of ghostly apparitions that tormented the remaining crew members. As Sarah finished reading, a bone-chilling wail echoed through the ship, and the lanterns flickered and died. Panic swept over the Eclipse crew as they fumbled for flashlights. In the darkness, they heard whispered voices, spectral moans, and the faint sound of footsteps echoing through the ship's haunted corridors. Nina led the way, her heart pounding, as they followed the ghostly sounds deeper into the ship. They stumbled upon a cabin, its door slightly ajar. Pushing it open, they were met with a horrifying sight. Inside the cabin, the ghostly crew of the abandoned ship stood frozen in time. Their hollow eyes stared out from skeletal faces, their tattered clothing hanging from emaciated bodies. They reached out with skeletal hands, their fingers brushing against the intruders. "Help us," one of the ghosts whispered, its voice a hollow rasp. "Help us find peace." Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she realized the truth. The crew of the ghost ship were trapped between worlds, unable to move on until their story was told. They had become the very ghosts that had tormented them in life. Determined to help the tormented souls, the Eclipse crew listened intently as the ghostly crew recounted their tragic tale. They learned of a mutiny, of betrayal and desperation. The ship had been cursed, doomed to sail the mist-shrouded waters of Lake Superior for all eternity. As the last words of the ghostly captain echoed through the cabin, a brilliant light filled the room. The ghosts began to fade, their forms dissolving into mist. With a final, grateful sigh, they vanished into the ether, their restless souls finally finding peace. The Eclipse crew watched in awe as the ghost ship itself began to fade away, its spectral form slowly dissipating into the mist. The ship was no longer bound to the material world, its curse finally broken. With heavy hearts and a newfound respect for the mysteries of Lake Superior, the crew of the Eclipse returned to their own vessel. As they sailed away from the fading specter of the ghost ship, they couldn't help but wonder if their encounter had been a blessing or a curse. One thing was certain, the legends of Lake Superior would continue to haunt their dreams, a reminder of the restless spirits that lurked beneath its dark waters.
Thank you for watching, and remember, the darkness awaits. Until our paths cross again, stay fearful and stay subscribed.